889-8377, extension 224.
KCAA.
All right now. All right, Ant-Man, Mood Master. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, here on the case for truth, justice, with the right information to help improve the situation. Oh my goodness. Sunday morning, church time. Realize who you are. Make that promise. I went to college with a young man. I'm gonna give his initials TS. His final statement and beginning statement all the time was, "My intentions are good." And as I mellow and move further and further into the realm of a good life, I realize that is critical. Our intentions. What are our intentions? Well, one of the things I need to do is salute those folks who wrote this Constitution that we're living by. They are amazing. What they wrote, what they sat down, who they listened to, who they were inspired by was magical, mystical, heavenly. Their aspirations were amazing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But right now I want to remind you that Empire Talks Back is brought to you by West Side Story Newspaper and the Improve Association. We can all improve. We have a couple of guests today. One of them is Mr. Rich Wallace. He's the president of the Southern California Black Chambers of Commerce. We also have Mr. Brian Keith Walker. He's a comedian, event producer. And you hear to my right, Mr. Anthony Garcia, the Mood Master. He is my backbone. He is the one I lean on to keep me in the right mood and the right attitude, because he does talk too much, but he's got a tremendous right hand and left hand that he works on that bass guitar. Anthony, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Hello.
Hello. He doesn't have a microphone for a reason, but but that's okay. I'd like to remind everybody, COVID-19 is hanging around. It's not something to play with. But let me say this about FEMA. FEMA has a COVID-19 funeral assistance program. If you've lost a loved one due to COVID-19, FEMA has a funeral assistance program that you can sign up for that will last until the end of September. September 30th will be the last day that you can sign up for that program to help alleviate the pain and cost of the funeral of your loved one. I recommend that you take advantage of it. That number is 844-684-6333. Again, that number 844-684-6333. And that number is available to you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So that means you need to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and call before 6 o'clock in the evening here on the West Coast. Folks, the amazing people who wrote our great Constitution described great goals, aspirations for our future, for the future of a nation that they knew was not perfect, but they were looking down the line at you and me and figuring that, well, give me time. Like my great friend T.S., their intentions were good. They spoke of all men being created equal, while at the same time justifying slavery by declaring their fellow human beings 3/4 of a man, based simply on the color of their skin. I'm a little sensitive to that because I say their skin, but that's the color of my skin. it's non-white. If you wasn't white, you wasn't right. If you didn't have no money, didn't own no land, you couldn't vote. They didn't care about women or black folk or Indians. They cared about basically white men at that time. But they wrote a constitution with aspirations that said, one day we'll all be free if you set foot on this property here in the United States that we're calling the United States of America. We will treat you with all of the rights of freedom. They wrote a Bill of Rights. Started off with freedom of speech. You can say what you want to say. Matter of fact, a lot of people start off their sentences by saying, well, you can say what you want to say, but. And that describes one of those freedoms that we have as individuals here in the United States as we go forward. That aspiration for total freedom is a state of policy. That's the lane that we're driving in. But everybody in that lane, in that little car that they're rolling, they can say what they want to say while they're in that lane. Every individual can talk crazy about me, Wallace Allen, you know that boy. They can say what they want to say. They can say hate speech. They can talk about my mama. Well, if they talk about my mama, they want to be quiet about it. But, I mean, they have the right. Because if I beat them up for talking bad about my mama, the judge said, well, Wallace, why'd you was talking about my mom? He said, Wallace, you can't get in it like that. You have to learn how to talk about his mama if you're going to deal with that. But you can't be beating people up because they talk about your mama. I understand, Anthony. I'm with you. I believe that there's some words that can get you so excited you forget who you are and you just want to fight. But they don't let that happen either. There ain't no such thing as fighting words. Nothing like that. This is based on the law. We got laws. We have a policy that says how we are going to perform. That policy is the nation, the goals, the aspirations. We can have people be racist if they want to, but that's not the policy. It shouldn't be. Our country's promise to pursue freedom, equality, equal protection under the law for all. Individuals have the freedom to want freedom for some, but not all. But the policy of the nation is obligated to follow the hard path laid out by our amazingly written Constitution. That's not happening now, and I'm going to talk about it. I think it's time to impeach and fire President Donald Trump.
You're not lying.
I think it's time to impeach and fire President Donald Trump. Now, if you want to discuss it, I'll give you a couple of minutes to make your point, and you can call in. Now, Eric, what's the call-in number? I'd rather hear you say it because I'm inviting them, but I want them to know there's an expert here that's, they may think I'm faking them out.
909-383-1000?
909-383-1000.
Yeah.
Okay, so, that's not going to be the total subject of today's program, but I'm willing to let you interrupt us if you got something to say, to protect, to justify. You don't need to crucify him. I'm not wanting to suggest anything like that. But if you want to talk about how much you love President Trump, I'm going to give you a number to call, and you make that call. And we even have supportive services that we can give you if you sound sick enough. I can get you to a doctor if you sound strong enough. I bring you in here and give you a little time on the show, and we can talk about it. I'm not afraid, and I know you're not, especially if you're willing to call in. So let me say this, and then I'm going to introduce my guests. A couple of gentlemen that are purposeful, have things that they are doing every day that are important, not only in their lives, but in the lives of folks that depend on aspirations that are inclusive, aspirations that are progressive, aspirations that are entertaining, aspirations that are good intentions, trying to make the world a better place. But let me say this about my president. I say that because if I don't claim him, then if he ain't my president, how am I going to impeach him? If he's not my president, how am I going to fire him? I have to say that my president, placing armed military on the streets of American cities. Placing armed military on the streets of American cities. Having people arrested by masked men leaping out of unmarked cars. Woo. Arresting people, masked men arresting people, riding around in unmarked cars, jumping out of the cars, arresting people, honoring traitors and racists, honoring, placing the photographs and big pictures on the wall of, and I'll just go to one of the biggest ones, the one that they honored most, Robert E. Lee. Well, what's wrong with Robert E. Lee? Nothing was wrong with Robert E. Lee if you love traitors. Man led the charge against our nation, caused the death of over 400,000 Americans from the North and the South. A slave owner fought to keep slavery alive. And we have a president who's placing his picture on the wall. I suppose he's going to place it next to Putin's picture, or get Putin and place him up there, because he seems to love our sworn enemy, Russia, Putin, dictators. He's targeting he's targeting our press, targeting our newspapers, our TV stations, our folks that we've depended on to help us see and understand what's going on. I mean, if you're out here picking cotton every day trying to make a living, you don't have time to know all of what's going on. You depend on a journalist. You depend on people who've dedicated their lives to telling the truth. And if you're a journalist, you are going to tell at least two sides of the story, though most of these stories have 3 or 4 sides. But he's threatening our press with ridiculous lawsuits. He's threatening free speech. All of this is a step toward replicating Nazi Germany. I'm not sorry to say it, but I'm sorry that I'm in a position to have to say it. It's time to dump Trump. It is time to impeach and fire my president, and I need your help to do it. So, that being said, I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to come back and introduce a couple of fine young men who are with great aspirations trying to make America a better place. And they deserve our support, your support. And meanwhile, Eric, what's that number again?
909-383-1000.
You can use that number. Call up. You can interrupt this show. It would be a good interruption. So don't be afraid. We love you. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
All right, this is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, here on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. To my immediate left, we have Mr. Rich Wallace, the president of the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce. Rich, how are you doing today?
I am blessed and challenged, and I thank you so much for having me on the show today. And we are just overjoyed to be here It's the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce from the desert to the sea.
From the desert to the sea. Tell us a little bit about the chamber.
Chamber is a business organization. You know, you run across there's a lot of different types of business organizations out here, and hopefully we're all doing the same thing, going to the same direction to be able to get small businesses benefits and these types of things. So we work with a lot of the different other cultural chambers, Hispanic Coalition, the different Asian Businesses Association, a couple of Jewish chambers out in the Hollywood area. So we try to bring business atmosphere to our members. So kind of like the same thing the city chamber does. City chamber is responsible for making sure that a Walmart or something business moves into their city as opposed to the next city. So we do that for our members, and we just connect them from the desert to the sea. So it's always an opportunity to meet somebody you don't know at a Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce mixer here in the Inland Empire or in one of our other areas.
So what other areas do you cover?
Well, we're actually, when I say from the desert to the sea, we actually start in Long Beach. We're in Beverly Hills. We have a wonderful event coming up in Beverly Hills a couple of Fridays away on our website at blackchamberofcommerce.org. We're also in Culver City, in Hollywood, Pasadena, Pomona. Our director out in the Pomona area, Dee Goins, used to be in our office here in San Bernardino, so now she's in Pomona. We also have one in Temecula, Barstow, Victorville, Palm Springs, literally from the desert to the sea.
Well, you have to take your ginkgo to remember this stuff every day, don't you?
Every day, but when you say it like you do, if that's part of my 30-second hi, how you doing? What's your name? My name is Rich Wallace with the Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce from the desert to the sea.
Excellent.
So that's all in one name.
Rich, you've been president for how many years?
I've been doing this for over 32 years now.
What's your proudest moment?
I think my proudest moment was actually creating our youth program with Youth Power Community Solutions, where we have a high school and we bring young people in, get them a high school diploma. We're full WASA accredited high school, but to get them to start a business and to see them come out of the 6-block area that they grew up in and actually start a business and grow out. I've got a couple of young people that started businesses in Las Vegas, one in Florida, that have moved out of the area and actually created a small business. We have a mechanic shop here, which is a great story. A young man in our school, and his dad was he's a shade tree mechanic at the house, and I showed him how to get his license, and the son, now they have a shop down on Waterman with license and all of the other things that goes with them. So I think those are our proud moments, that when we can change lives, even at the chamber or at the school, we get to a point when you're our age, it's not about money, and we want some money, but it's not about the money. It's about how we can touch each other and change some lives and help some young people move forward.
I guess part of that being able to work without money is to simply name yourself Rich.
Yeah, and you know, that way everybody that speaks to me can agree up on that. So I'm looking for people to agree that we are rich, and we are rich and powerful.
Very
because
good.
we are, no matter what situation is given to Black America, we rise to the top. I heard you talking about the Constitution and the people that wrote it, and those people had slaves, and we still rose to the top. No matter what our current leadership does, we are still going to the movies. We still going, but we need to get our own movie houses. That's what we need to,
And we're making our own movies.
Yeah,
That's
and
for
we're
sure.
making our own movies. Tyler Perry has shown you that you don't really need that. And with the younger generation making movies on TikTok and Flip Flop and all of the other kind of things that are out there, we are doing our thing, and we're not oppressed as they may think that, but our light is beginning to shine as Black people, as long as we can figure out a way to work together. And I have to say this, I say it all the time, it's not necessary for us all to work together, but it's necessary for us all in our area to work together. So as long as we are pushing our agenda, and we'll join up down the line. Like I said, there's other chambers, there's other business organizations, and we're tying in with them in different ways with special events and sharing the information. We work with Young Visionaries and a lot of other organizations. And I just was talking to someone the other day, and there's a new Veterans Chamber of Commerce coming out. So I sent out our love to them, that we're going to be trying to help with that.
I think Arrowhead United Way is coordinating and putting that together.
Okay, so and my blessings, anything that the Southern California Black Chamber can do to help that move forward. I am a veteran, so I may benefit from that
Absolutely.
as well. And as we grow, everyone grows. We're part of our national organization out of Washington, D.C., our state organization, and I would like to have that Veterans Chamber tag along and see how they can grow. So, because the veterans need it. You know, a lot of times they don't get what they should be getting. In an organization like mine, I am pro-black. I'm not racist because I take a lot of different people's money,
Right.
But I put it back in the black community, where make sure that black businesses get what they need. And it's a mindset, that, Brother Wallace, is that it's not always about money helping people. It's about changing their mind and having them believe in what they said they could do and sticking it out, because success is right around the corner from stop, quit that.
Words are so important. The word competition is really important. I'd like for us to go over that for a second. But the word racist and racism is very loosely used, and sometimes people use the word racism to describe a preference. I like my chili with beans, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-chili. Racism, for a person to be racist, means they have to have some type of control over that person or that circumstance that they're trying to hold down. Racism means that you have some type of policy that effectively stands in the way of someone else's progress based on their race. And I happen to know for sure, Rich, you are not a racist, in the sense that you are not trying to hold anybody back, as I've discussed with you and talked with you about people that sometimes are out bad-mouthing and trying to argue and compete at a level that as if we're going to run out of the ability to help. If we're out here helping, you cannot say that competing to help people is going to have some type of negative end to it. If it's getting ready to rain, my grandparents were farmers. If it's getting ready to rain and we need to get all the potatoes up out of the ground, we can compete to pull up all of those and see who can pull up the most potatoes. Doesn't mean you're going to get to eat all those potatoes, but it means we are going to work together to save those potatoes for our group.
Right.
And this is what we have to understand and what we have to do together.
And, in the word of competition, for me, I never look at anything being competitive, because I'm me, and that's what you get. So if you go someplace else, you don't get me, and you get whatever they offer, and hopefully that is great. But you have to be so secure in yourself and your show and what you're doing here, is that they could be, there's 1,000 radio shows on the internet every 30 seconds, 10,000. But when you come here, you feel like this is the number one station. This is the number one place to go. So there's no competition between 10 and 11 o'clock on Sunday morning, because Empire Talk Back is here.
I like that. Get you to say that while you're talking about the Black Chamber. I'm going to be all right. Okay. We're going to get back, and when I get back to you, I want to ask you, what is it that is on the horizon? What is it that you're working on? And I know some of the things that you're working on, and I think they're very important. I think they're very critical, and I think the aspirations for our local future is very bright as far as you are concerned, because you are looking to improve what's going on. I'd like to introduce my next guest, the gentleman next to you, Mr. Brian Keith Walker. He's an author. He is a funny man, a comedian. He's an event producer. Brian, how are you this morning?
Very thankful, and I'm very glad to be here this morning on the subjects that you're discussing about the Constitution and so forth.
Okay.
I might sound a little weird at first, because that's how it is when you're a loner, but you have something to say that everybody's not used to as of yet. But I believe the Constitution was written by great men that started the country. and I believe it was taken over by white racists, similar to today. I spoke on this before Obama was in office. All they need to do now is get rid of the Constitution, and that's what they're working on. And that is the Confederate States of the United States. They're not United States. So you're seeing these things pushed to the limit in front of your eyes, but without the right look at history, we don't recognize it. That I want to get too started in it, but I really want to get off my chest. That we ever heard of Black Wall Street, right? And we know they bombed them out of their city.
You're talking about Tulsa in specific.
Yes, yes.
And Rosewood and several other
Yes.
black cities that were created by black folk. They created everything, I think, except the army or police department to protect themselves.
Yes, I use that as a reference because I'm sharing that the people that did those things are the same ones that took over the country. It wasn't started by bigotry and white men like we think, because they had a few slaves. That's, to me, it's called a red herring. I'm not saying that slavery was good in any way, but there's a difference between the Southerner and the Northerner. And if you look at this book here, I wrote a book on it because nobody really knew about it. But this is called Mum Bet Elizabeth Freeman. This lady lived in the house where they wrote the things we're talking about. She was enslaved, but she got her freedom in 1781. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you don't know about Bet, who was a slave, who they call Mom Bet because she loved everyone, who named herself Elizabeth Freeman when she got free in 1781. She started freedom in the North. The North was free. Have you ever watched 12 Years a Slave? I'm just using movies as a context. The man was free in the beginning, and he was taken back to the South under a different name as slave patrols took him to get their money. But it took 12 years for them to go down there and find him to get him out of that. But my point is, if you look at Mum Bet, she was free in 1781, lived her dreams that most black women want to do today, and that is buy her own home and things of that nature. But when you look at her on your own, without the guidance of this book I'm just sharing, it's in the wrong perspective. They just counted her as a person that was, she got hurt by a shovel iron, and they look at her as a person that stands for not being hurt and so forth, for battery for women, instead of the way she was brought out to end slavery in the United States in a sense. But it only started in the North. When Abraham Lincoln freed slaves, they say, that was already done when the South succeeded and lost the war. Because until then, when we talk about them having slavery, they joined the Union of the United States when it began, and they had state rights to have slaves. But they didn't do it across the United States because it wasn't allowed in the North, due to Mum Bet being free. She said the presidents in court, the other slaves got free, and eventually the North was free.
Wow.
Now you look up Quake Walker real quick. I'm
Spell-
Brian Walker. Quake Walker in 1788 was beaten. He was granted freedom when he was 25 by his owner, but his owner died, and the wife remarried, and the one she remarried to refused to do it. So he went back when he was 25 to the house where the son stayed of the man that owned him that died, and the owner now came with his mob and beat him up to take him back. He ended up going to court, getting his freedom, and the people I'm mentioning came out of court with money. They didn't just use it free. They came out with restitution behind the battery.
Very interesting.
So we know that history. We'll know that it wasn't started by a racist white man. It was taken over. And I'll say the name, Andrew Jackson, on the $20 bill. You can Google it now. Some people mention that Trump is similar to Germany. But if you look at it, he's really, the whole game plan is Andrew Jackson's. And that's why you look it up and you can see that's why Robert E. Lee, he's putting these things up because he's heroing the Confederacy right in front of our face.
That's true to the extent of your passion. And the other thing that's true is that the first person who shed blood in the name of America was Crispus Attucks, who was a black man, and he was a free black man. And we know that despite the terrors of slavery and the memories of slavery that Donald Trump wants to erase, are there not because that's what we want to glorify or use to glorify our existence in America, but simply to exemplify the reason that we want to stay in the lane of aspirations of perfection for America, as far as I'm concerned. I know about slavery, I read about slavery. I'm not familiar enough about everybody's story to say whether it's true or not, but I do know that individuals, black individuals under the rule of slavery, aspired to be free. Some did. And certainly there were some who maybe found some comfort in the relationships that they were able to have. My mother, from the South, Mississippi, is able to point out Sarah, the African lady in the family, but she's also able to point out the Baycoats, the family of white, that is the cousins of her family. We go to a family reunion, an African American family reunion, you usually are going to see people who range in skin color from, I mean, you see the United Nations there. You see people who look white, could pass for white, in some cases may be doing so, or maybe have actualized that they are white, all the way to people who look like they just arrived from Nigeria. But it's all family. I don't know, that's the way it is in my family reunion. How about yours? As far as I'm concerned, the people who are best suited to be totally accepting of people as Americans, accepting of people as people they can work with and aspire to be great with, come from the African American family, because that's what we look like. That's what our family is composed of. Not all of them, but I think there's a tolerance as well as an acceptance and an enthusiastic acceptance of people today who, regardless of what their coloring and melanin content is like, because we are at a point where the character is very important as to who we work with, as to who we go forward with. We look at the coast of Mexico, the west coast of Mexico, and if we get into the history, we'll understand and remember that as Spain came into the Western Hemisphere, they didn't come in on the eastern side of America, they came up the west coast. This is how they laid out their missions here in California, and they brought slaves with them. They tended to drop them off in Mexico on the west coast. And as we go into our history, we'll find that they left them alone, and that many of them created their civilization to mimic the civilization that they had in Africa. Irvin Van Sanders, our historians can show this.
Yes.
We are a people that represent almost the whole world. And if we focus on just one aspect of it in our attempt to survive and thrive, we will miss the boat that we're trying to build, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
So I don't want to cut anybody off because they happen to have blue eyes, because I can go to Brazil and find black folk.
Yeah. I was just sharing too with the book. It's the way we look at history. It's it can be argued, but I'm just sharing. If we do the research, I'm just sharing that there were white men that fought for equality, not because they loved blacks, because they loved the Lord. So the men that wrote that Constitution was those very men who lost control of the country when Andrew Jackson took it over. I'll keep sharing that he started a new Democratic Party for whites only. That's in history. And before that, it was a Democrat-Republican Party, which we should be under today. When the president wins, he's representing both parties. It's called a Dem Rep Party. You can Google it. And that was John Quincy Adams, the son of John Adams, who was the sixth president, that was the last one. The seventh president, Andrew Jackson, took over under Democratic Party only, without the Republican Party. That was brought back in 1854 during the convention with the Whig Party. Abraham Lincoln was a Whig, and the Republican Party came back. And if we look at that history, you'll know why the South succeeded about the Civil War. They succeeded immediately because they felt they lost the country they had took. And so these men, the Whig Party was the founders of the country, the United States as we know it. But they couldn't make the South get rid of slaves and joining the Union of the United States when it was created. That's why you have in the bills and so forth about the slave being 3/4 of a human. That was after Mountbatten were freed in the North. To write that in is to keep the slaves in the South with the South having the rights to have slavery. And so once they succeeded and lost the war, Abraham Lincoln freed them on paper, but they were already freed because they lost the right to have slaves in the South.
So as we look at that picture of the South as you describe it, or that picture of the United States as you describe it, and the picture that we wake up to every day here in the United States, what do you see as a means of putting us back on the lane, back in the lane of the Constitution where all men
By
should
knowing
be
this
created?
history the right way and becoming the Dem Rep Party again. Once you see that a bigot, no offense, I'm just sharing the facts, that a bigot unraveled it, then just if you're a teacher in class, you would go back to the era and correct it, right?
Well, now here's the thing. Part of this has to do with how you talk about my grandpa. Just like I say, you talk about my mama. You talk about my grandpa. You talk about my great-grandpa. If the mama tells the child that your daddy ain't no good, the child may appear to accept that, but at some point the child's got to remember that that's her daddy and she's carrying his blood and his genes and his tendencies. Mm-hmm. And if mama think he wasn't no good, maybe mama don't like me either. So as we get into playing the dozens, talking about people's past, there is something to the idea that history can make some white people ashamed and dreadful and dread the conversation about it.
Well, some people should be ashamed.
Well, I understand. But now that we've made them ashamed, how do we bring them back into the game with pride so that they can live a life of pride, live a life of giving, live a life of understanding that they can succeed in life despite the past of their grandparents and great-grandparents, because all of us have that deal. But you can very easily look at most white people and say they didn't really have anything to do with.
Prime example would be this, I'm just sharing. Mm-hmm. First, look at history and see that Andrew Jackson did separate the parties. It should be under Democrat-Republican Party instead of just Democrat with the donkey on it.
Well, let me say this. A good leader, most men are not able to lead. They're able to get to the intersection, see where the crowd is going, and get in front of it. Mm-hmm. I am not under the impression that Donald Trump planted all of the seeds of racism and hate that he's able to just display in a rally where people come out and join him in his statements, in his attitude. I'm thinking those seeds were there. He simply watered them. He simply.
I'm just sharing. Just so I can answer your question.
No, I understand just sharing, and that's good.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, as we share, we have to understand the physics of life. Mm-hmm. That for every action there's a reaction, and that if I stay browbeating you about the fact that you're wrong, at some point you're going to say, "Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I agree. I'm wrong. Now what?"
But I'm just trying to answer your question earlier about whites and so forth and feeling ashamed. I'm just sharing to let them off the hook by sharing. If you're not...
No, I'm not saying let them off the hook.
I'm just sharing. It's not white people in skin. That's why I'm not saying that. I'm sharing that there is good white people. They're from the beginning and separating them by knowing knowledge of history. So I'm just sharing. You're saying that Donald Trump didn't didn't start racism, but he watered the seeds of it. And I'm sharing you're correct by it's a country he's leading. They're called the Confederate States. They didn't go anywhere. So I'm just sharing that If you look at history and see what happened in it to learn from it, you will see that good white people started this country and they were beaten like the people on Black Wall Street. That's why I used that example earlier. Okay, there's pictures of people with their bare face hanging blacks and burning them, right? You've seen pictures of that nature?
Yes.
Were they wearing Klan uniforms? No, the Klan uniforms were for other whites that they beat. They covered their face from attacking their political enemies who said that you and I were equal with whites. Do you see, I'm just using it for reference. Have you ever heard, seen the movie The Help?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
So
so
what
just
you're
real
saying
quick.
is that there's good people.
Yeah, of course.
Now, my concept is, who do we spend our time working with? The people who are marginally bad or the people who are marginally good?
You
Are
work
we
with
here
the good and pray for the bad.
Okay.
Well, you talk about Mr. Trump, 73 million people voted for him, 72 million people voted for the other person. So
Okay.
it's a couple million away from being overseer of everything. So if you want to do something now, there's a couple things that we could do, in my opinion. Right now. The Republican, there's an election coming up in a year and a half, the primary, and a lot of us that look like us are on the Democratic ticket. But there's a lot of that look like us that are Republicans. There used to be an organization called BAPAC, Black Political Organization. Their job was to recruit black people on both sides of the fence and have them run. So I think the leaders of the Republican Party today would look real strange in the primary if there were at least 3 black people in every race that they were in, which would split their ticket. So we have to play the game that's played for us. And we can't change the rules of football, unless we go talk to the owners and they're the owners. So if we get in the game,
The election game,
where the power game is, and begin to help the cities that have black mayors look better. Because I heard you saying about the Army and the National Guards going in the city, but they're going in the cities with so much crime, and they're blaming us for the crime.
Absolutely.
Now, all of the crime's not our fault, but we're getting blamed for it. Because when something come up stolen and there's only 2 black people in the room, I don't know who they're going to blame. So they're going to blame the black people. So what we got to do is, okay, the National Guard is here. But they're National Guard, black people, National Guard, white people, National Guard, and Hispanic people. They have a job to do. We put the National Guard in Paris or in France. When we take over these countries, there's National Guards walking up and down the street. In almost every country that you've ever been to, you see a guy with an M16, which is not a police officer.
No. And that's one of the differences that we've traditionally felt about America, is that we don't see that. We don't have that. Our Constitution says, aspirationally, we do not place our military on American soil. That's the idea of perfection. But at the same time, when you have a policy that says, I'm going to defund the police and make your cities weaker, okay, because you gotta have a group of people running around saying defund the police. Well, I'm gonna agree with them. We're gonna stop paying the police. We're gonna take away billions of dollars from our cities to defund the police. Now, when you don't have enough police, well, what's enough police? Think about what happens when you're driving down the freeway and you see a highway patrol. I don't care who you are, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna slow down. Actually, if you just see the car and you roll up on it and you pass the car parked on the side of the road and you don't see no police in it, you still have slowed down. And you still figure, well, maybe he was bent down in the car, maybe he was in the bushes, but it controls you for a moment. The appearance of National Guard on your streets with guns is going to slow you down if you are driving, walking, or even thinking about doing anything illegal, simply by the sheer numbers. So if you put the National Guard in any city, crime is going to go down. But if you put an empty police car at every corner and intersection, chances are crime is going to go down. So the presence of the police has an intimidating effect on most of us, even the people who ain't trying to do nothing wrong. They say, well, what's the police doing here? But as soon as I lost my wallet the other day, I found my wallet, by the way, but I lost my wallet, and my first thoughts was, golly, did it fall out of the car or sit on the sidewalk? Where was the police? If somebody walked by and found my wallet. We need and want the police to be our point and advantage. But I agree with you, Rich, that if we are going to deal and live in a political atmosphere, we certainly have to have some political strategies that we're going to operate with. And as I look back on the so-called black movement that delivered us to a situation where we had a civil rights movement and some civil rights laws put in place, those were not done simply by black folk operating alone. And it wasn't done by black folk and the few black folk who managed to pass for white and come in. This was done as a result of cooperation between black folk, white folk, brown folk,
Like the
yellow
building
folk.
of this country, sir.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
I agree with you so much. But you know, Brother Wallace, a lot of this is done by money. If
Certainly.
we spend our money in our area, if we open up our dry cleaners, if we invest in our own line, it could be line of Hilton hotels that we own. If we begin to go back where we came from with our own baseball teams and our own, they let Jackie Robinson into baseball because we were selling more tickets than
Ain't
the
nobody
Dodgers.
in Koreatown ashamed of having Koreatown.
Nowhere in it, and not ashamed to put up a sign that you cannot read.
That's right.
So that
Unless you
says
read
don't
Korea.
even come in
That's
here.
right. We are in the state of California, which was promised with the treaty that removed California from the possession of Mexico. That treaty said that we would always have an open border, that we are basically in Mexico. We have a strong Mexican contingent by right. They're not ashamed to support each other and drive miles in order to do that. Black folk have to, if we are going to be successful with business, we need to be able and willing to support each other. White people don't have a big problem supporting black-owned businesses that they want to support.
There's a thing going on now that we're creating out of our Washington, D.C. office at the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, and it's look at the black business first. Buy black. We're going on a national campaign across the United States saying buy black.
Stop boycotting
Stop.
black-owned businesses.
Stop boycotting black, and stop boycotting businesses that support black-owned
That's right.
businesses. So we need to turn the wheels. Recycling the black dollar is a good thing, but there's not enough dollars in that circle.
Right.
So, and if we do start recycling the black dollars and go back to the black neighborhood, I'm sorry, go back to being segregated on our own side of the fence, you watch how the banks and the other attitudes will change.
Concentrating as opposed to segregating.
There you go.
Concentrate our money.
There you go.
Concentrate our money to a circumstance that is as friendly with us as our needs are.
But most
common
of the power,
for us.
I feel, I'm just sharing my opinion.
Well, no, the power. Now let's understand
it's
the power.
political.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
But look at this power. The money that our churches collect on Sunday morning, on Monday morning, go into banks that will not loan them the money to do what they need to do. Is that the bank's fault?
No,
Whose fault is that?
the person that's putting the money in the bank,
Oh, okay. Who's got the power? Who's got the power?
the person with the money.
Okay, now, because we're making bad decisions, in the position of making a decision, the power to make a decision, but we're not making decisions that benefit us, that looks a little strange, doesn't it? When we turn around and tell other people, you need to support us. If we're not supporting ourselves, how are we going to expect other people to support us? If we look outside of the room for cooperation from outsiders, but we cannot cooperate within, then we waste a lot of energy complaining about what the outside people are doing. Solution is our number one goal as we aspire to do what needs to be done. And I'm saying this because you're on the quickest hour. You're on the quickest hour of radio, and now I can't share no time left because we don't have any time left.
So can I make a quick announcement before we go?
Make it really quick.
Okay, Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce Unity Diversity Conference is coming up on October 16th and 17th. In the city of Ontario. Check us out at blackchamberofcommerce.org.
Indeed. And I'm Brian Keith Walker Sr. We have the Sports Center at the Orange Show. We're starting October 17th at 7:30. The doors open, and we have comedy for you and other venues coming. And go to pickyourfunny.com.
Laugh your way to a good attitude and progress. This is Empire Talks Back. I want to thank the Mood Master, Mr. Anthony, the great Garcia. Eric, thank you for a great job. Brian, Rich, see you guys next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's will, and two, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Thank you for your time.
Amen.
NBC News on KC.